Okay, so week 6 in CIT82, Introduction to Web Development. And this week is the end of the two days that we have off for the campus. And so for this day, I move forward one day the due dates, as you've already seen. So that's nothing new, that part of it. I just wanted to give you the heads up. And then the other thing is we're at week 6, approaching week 9 quickly. Staying up to date, and I've said it before, is way important because, and this might be a thing I'm not going to ask, but in your brain, when does this class end? Right? How would you find that out? Maybe actually you should check by the time you get here. I may have added that. Okay, I probably won't, but really it's important to keep that in your front of mind in this course. Okay, so this week, now that you've had some introduction to Bootstrap, we're going to now take that introduction skill and have you select a template. Okay, so templates are just that. I suspect you've seen them in Microsoft Word. It's basically something that somebody built and that you can use. And choose free ones. Yes, there are paid ones out there, but choose a free one, of course, because the idea is not to have to pay for it. And the idea here is really, if this course was longer, would I have you build an actual design from the ground up using Bootstrap? Absolutely. But the compressed nature of this course lends itself to using templates. But the other thing is it's not uncommon, because one of the common things, and I'm using common too many times here, but one of the things that Bootstrap is really known to be used for is prototyping. Like, I need to put up something really quick. I'm putting together a project. I need to have a site up fairly quickly. Now, as we've already seen, there are newer ways. Wix is one, right? We looked at Jimbo. And there are definitely many others out there now that are kind of giving this feature of Bootstrap a bit of a run for its money, but it's not in the sense that when you build something that you're about to do, you have complete control over it. Okay? But here's what I want to say, and here's what I want to help you understand about what we're about to do. What you're about to do is the beginning way that, in general, when you're in the web development industry, you want to have this experience of building a website in terms of a multi-page website. And I say this as we move into this Bootstrap and picking a Bootstrap, and you all need to pick individual ones. Here's the one I will use for demonstration purposes. Now, so don't choose, and you'll see me talk about this in the video. But this is what we would term a multi-page website. And how do we know something is multi-page? Well, it's if you have a menu, right? So we talk about taking the number of pages that you have and building out a menu. Well, this is your menu. Typically 3 to 5, right? Now, some of this, the contact doesn't have subpages, but most of these others would then have subpages underneath them, which is why I have you do a sitemap. But getting back to the topic, how do you know it's a multi-page site is if you look up at the URL, whenever you hit the menu, you come to a new page. Okay, so that's one easy way to know it's a multi-page website. And I say that because it's fairly common for smaller sites to be what we call single-page applications. And in this case, we also call them single-page websites. SPAs, though, is a fairly common term. And so when you're picking these templates, there's a good chance. Not always. There are definitely some that already have that multi-page layout, but not to worry, because even if you choose one that as you're clicking through, you're seeing that, oh, you know what, this is the same page. And be warned, sometimes on some of these free sites where you're looking at these templates, they may have a banner, so you just have to be a little, careful. But I want you to know that it is very common to have single page websites out there, and what you're going to build is a multi-page website. And I do this for a couple of reasons. One is part of what you really want to have experience of is handling files, handling folders, doing relatively basic edits in this case HTML, a little bit of CSS, but just mostly understanding the bootstrap classes, right? But also just understanding the design. So part of what you're going to do this week is you're actually going to dive in and look at the design, the template design that you choose. And that process, do not skimp on that process. I mean, just because the more time you spend understanding it, the better the better experience when you go to build your project zero. And actually, I would tell you even before you choose it, and you'll probably hear me say this in the content, is spend a little time looking at it, because sometimes what looks flashy when you actually go to look at the code, and this could be true for many of these examples, but it could be a little more complicated. And not that that's bad, by the way. It's good to, and this is where you can use tools to help you understand, like these Gen AI sites, to help you understand what that code is doing. But back to my point of that this process you're going to do for Project Zero is what I would term a laborious task. And it is that in the sense that you have to create pages. So like over here, when I started building my site out, I took my template and I had to, again, break this idea because it was a single page application. And so what I ended up having to do was change the menu so that it would then go to individual pages. But when I did that, the more work, and you'll probably hear me say this, the more work I did on that index page, that first page, made my life later much easier. So once I had set my copyright up, I had set my title. Now the title is metadata that needs to be changed uniquely for that. But the point of this is that you're going to get an experience that is important, because it won't be the last time you see a site like this if you continue on this industry, because there are many of them out there, and you may be asked, it's not uncommon to be asked to update or manage this multi-page website, right? Because the other thing is, I'm showing you the example of I didn't show you the example of a single page, but you'll know them and you'll recognize them because you've seen websites like this. But the other thing I'd want you to know is, as you continue with your web development skill base, you'll see many different ways dynamically with code and back-end content to bring together that web page as it's delivered, because there are definitely many things that are out of the sight of somebody who's just looking at a website that happen to generate that site. And the thing we want to do is make that as optimized as possible when we're doing it professionally. What you're doing with this multi-page website is not efficient, right? It's not, because what you have to do is what we call make a round trip to the server every time you load the page. Right? So every time I click a menu, it loads a page, and that has a cycle. And we talk about that cycle being a little expensive, but it's a good thing to know how to do. Okay. So I showed you my example. You're going to see me talk about that in the content coming up. And the thing is, I would just say to you is, like, I use a Mac, so unzipping is easy. You just double click on the folder. On Windows, if you've never done it, I have, most students have, but if you haven't, go over to YouTube and search for how to unzip. But basically, you download the file. And the reason I'm talking about this is it relates to the templates, okay? Because there'll be times, and there definitely could be some stuff in these templates, like what we call SAS, where it's dynamically creating the CSS. You don't have to worry about that. You're not going to be running those processes, because there's what is termed build processes that actually build websites based on not just a template, but a whole series of things that you do. So when you're looking at these templates, sometimes they'll actually give you, like, hey, go to Git and do this command. I would just tell you, think about that. And if you need help, come talk to me. I don't know that I would necessarily do that, because I would download the template. I would look at it on my local system before I put it in my repo, because you're going to put these in your pub in a folder called PO for Project Zero. So just know how to unzip files. Think about that process. So basically what I'm saying is, take a moment when you're choosing these templates, because they're going to look flashy, but take a moment and really think about, right? Look at the code, because definitely some are done better than others. Choose a current Bootstrap site if you can right now. Bootstrap is setting at 5.3.3. I mean, I don't know if you could search for, and I'll show you in the video for when you're going to search for templates, and you all need to choose a different one and choose a different one than I have. There are some here, but typically, you can just go to Google and type Bootstrap. And I would do Bootstrap 3.2 or maybe 3.3 templates, right? Or something like that, because I think the video for that one's a little older. Okay, so that's my content. For the graded part, here's what I want you to do. Because you're going to start thinking about now, what is something you're considering building. And really what I should have said here is, and I did say it here, is what's the topic? Because you can do a vanity site. You could do kind of, I'd asked before, what kind of website have you considered building? Possibly, because the thing is, you're going to have to get content, right? So for my site, I had to generate, and it wasn't that hard. I had to generate my content, right? So it was pretty doable, pretty easy to do that, right? But and you can use, right? If you wanted to create a website for a topic that you're interested in, you can totally have Gen AI create some content for you. You'll just have to organize it in the site. So, consider the topic for your Project Zero. What do you think it's going to be? And tell us why this is something you're considering building. Tell us where you will get your content. This is what I'm talking about it here. And do you understand the difference between single page app website versus a multi-page? Okay, so answer that question. 20 points for making at least one substantive reply to another person's post. And again, try to find people that don't have replies. Sometimes students will just choose the first one out there. Okay? All right. Have a great one. On to week 7. Whew, it's going fast.